What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another tip of the day, and in today's tip of the day, I'm going to talk about everything that I look at on a daily basis. I'm going to break down what I break down when I break down the market. A lot of breaking down for you guys. It's going to be a quick, simple video, and I'm also going to mention an ETF version of the product if you don't have future contracts or if you don't have a cash index. For instance, if you're on Robinhood or you're on Webull or some sort of application where you make your trades, where you can add these ETFs or stock symbols that I'll list, and you guys can get an idea of what the market's doing on a day-to-day basis. So we'll start from the top, and I'll go right to the S&P 500. We look at the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 is the granddaddy of them all for indexes. It's 500 stocks inside one index, so we can get a general read on just everything across the board. Now, the weights inside the S&P 500 have definitely changed over the years, and we'll show you a little bit of that. But we look at the S&P 500 just to get a general gauge. When you say the word stock market, I think of the S&P 500, and that's the ES future contracts. Now, the future contracts trade 24 hours, 5 days a week. However, if you don't have the ES future contracts on your platform, the SPY is identical to the ES future contracts, and it's an ETF version of the S&P 500. So add the SPY into your watch list to just get a general idea of what the market did today. There's also the SPX, and what I use for the SPX is it's the cash index. This is where people trade options, calls, and puts on the S&P 500. This is a big boy product. You can see over time on my SPX chart, I draw the expected move for each week, and I keep them in there. So you can see the ones in blues were the times we were outside of the expected move. Now, if you don't know what the expected move is, I have videos in my tip of the day about that, and you can go back and look on them. However, I just want to talk about what I look at on a day-to-day basis. So the ES, S&P 500, SPY, we want to remember. Next, we look at the Nasdaq. Now, the Nasdaq is the technology sector. It's the top 100 technology stocks in this index, the Nasdaq 100, the NQ. Now, there's also the NDX, but I don't really look at the NDX. I just mainly look at the NQs, and if you don't have future contracts, you can just look at the QQQ. We take a look at the QQQ, and the QQQ is a mirror of the Nasdaq 100 right there, and it's a very good product, to say the least. Moving down the list, we look at the Russell 2000. Now, the Russell 2000 is stocks with market caps below $2 billion. So these are your small company stocks. Now, for the most part, we like to see what are the small caps doing. Are the small caps gaining some traction? Are they turning over? Typically, the small caps like to lead the way up or down. So we like to take a look at how they do on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you don't have the RTY future contracts, there's the IWM for an ETF version. It's a nice ETF, and it mirrors the Russell 2000. So you get a general read, well, what did the Russell do? Well, you can look at the IWM. It's up 1% today. Just get a ballpark read on things. So those are the three major indexes, the Nasdaq, the S&P, and the Russell 2000. There's also the Dow. However, the Dow is only 30 stocks. 30 stocks is a very small sample size, and we just throw it out. 30 stocks, you can't get a good read on things across the board. Next, we have the bonds. Now, there's the /ZB, which is the 30-year Treasury bond, and there's also the ZN, the 10-year Treasury notes. For the most part, I look at the ZB, the 30-year bond, just a general read on what are the bonds doing. Now, if you don't have these future contracts, there's the TLT. And the TLT is very similar to the ZB, and you can get a general idea on, okay, the bond's up or the bond's down. So TLT is a great ad to have on your watch list if you want to know what the bonds are doing. Moving down my list, we have the VIX. And the VIX is your volatility index. Now, these are the VIX futures, VX. I look at the VIX futures a lot, but I also pair them up with the VVIX. And there's the VIX. There's 3 VIX measures that you can look at But for the most part, if you're on a platform and you don't have these indexes, the VIX, the VVIX, or the VIX futures, there's VXX. Now VXX is all good and everything, but if you want to trade volatility, I do not recommend trading this product because it's a derivative of a derivative. So basically, when you trade this thing, it's not going to be in line 100%, and it's very complex product. But adding the VXX to your list, you can see it does rocket when we get in those crazy times. But VXX will give you a general read on things. But the VXX is going to mirror your VIX. It's your short-term notes. So it's not going to give you a great forecast outwards like the VVIX does or the VX futures, but you can get an idea on things. And then here is the VVIX. The VVIX is the volatility of the volatility. So it gets all the nooks and crannies where traders are buying or selling volatility, and it gives you an index price, and we go off of these prices. There is no set in stone value for what the VIX should be at. As you can see, it just looks a lot of craziness. We just kind of get a read. Well, is it a high up or is it down low? Think of the volatility in the VIX like lungs breathing. It gets low and then it pops. It gets high and it contracts. I did a video on volatility as well. You can check that out in the tips section. Moving on to the sectors, we look at the financials. Financials are a heavy weighted sector. It's not as big as technology, but it's coming up at number 2. It's right behind the technology sector, guys. So we look at the financials, and the financials have heavy weight on things. We see it's down almost 20% on the year, but we look at it on a day in and day out basis. We also like to look at the healthcare sector. Healthcare is a pretty big weight as well. However, if you look at it, it's kind of been going flat. So it's a sector we can look at, but we don't want to take too much out of healthcare. The main sectors that you want to look at are tech, financials, and energy. Those are 3 stable sectors to keep your eyes on. And then there's the energy sector. On a year, energy is down 50%. So we want to see when will energy get some rotation coming into it, and we'll be able to see that because this chart is just ugly. You'll know when money's coming into this sector. XLF, XLV, and XLE are 3 ETFs that you can add on your watch list. They're not a future contract, and you can get a general gist of what's financials, healthcare, and energy doing. Moving on, we have the Big 5. And this is a ticker that I designed, and it's based off the market cap. So it's a market cap weighted index. You can see I have 0.26% in Google. I have 25% in Apple, 19% in Microsoft, 20% in Amazon, and 10% in Facebook. So they have their market cap weights, and it gives us a quick read that the 5 combined, how much are they up? Are they up or are they down? These have heavy weights. Now, if you're not able to make custom tickers on your platform, just simply add Google, GOOG, add Apple, AAPL, add Microsoft, MSFT, add Amazon, AMZN, and add Facebook, FB. These are the top 5 market caps. Sure, you can add in Tesla, but Facebook's almost 2 Teslas. So it's like Tesla's a hot stock and all, and it could set the tone for things, but I have Tesla on here just because it's interesting and it's really close to cracking its way into the top 5. It just Facebook has it beat by almost double. So that's why I don't have Tesla in the top 5, guys. And plus Tesla isn't even in the S&P 500. So when I look at this read, I can see, okay, these 5 stocks are in the S&P 500. They're in the Nasdaq 100. And I can just be able to see how much weight were these 5 stocks doing to these 2 indexes. So that's that. And what else do we have? Now we have the dollar. Dollar, you're not going to get much from the dollar. It's just cool to look at because it's a currency that we use on a day-to-day basis. Seeing what the dollar does can give us a read. Is the dollar strengthening or is it weakening? Me personally, I think the dollar is going to continue to weaken because we keep printing and printing and printing more and more money. Now, if you want to watch the dollar and you don't have the dollar index, UUP is a good index. It's a dollar ETF, and you can get a general read. Is the dollar up or is the dollar down? And you can see it's up 0.28%, and the DXY is up 0.31%. So it's pretty close to getting a read on the dollar. And next, one of my favorites is gold. The gold future contracts, GC. Now, when we get to the dollar, gold, silver, Bitcoin, these are just things, commodities that I like to look at. You don't need to look at these to see how the market did, but it's cool to see where is money going. Is it going into gold? Is it coming back into cash? Is it going into Bitcoin? And we can see gold is down on the day, but if you don't have the GC futures, there's a GLD ETF, and it mirrors the gold futures, and you can buy it and you can get a read on it. You can see down 1%, down 1.27%, so it's kind of close. Then we have silver futures, SI. Same thing goes here. If you don't have the futures, SLV does you justice, down 1.5%. SLV is a mirror of the silver futures. We also have, I have gold miners. I like the GDX, GDXJ. Gold miners, I think, are going to be a great decade play going forward. But I like to just get a quick read. How are the miners doing? I don't talk about it in my breakdowns, but I see it. It's one of the things like Tesla. I don't talk about Tesla unless it's a big day, but I like to see it. And that's the same goes with the miners. And we have Bitcoin, BTC futures. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, I probably would recommend buying an actual Bitcoin and not buying an ETF of a Bitcoin, just because the fact when you're buying Bitcoin, the point of buying Bitcoin is the fact that it's something that you own, not a bank, and you don't have to go through anybody. When you own a Bitcoin, it's yours, and you want it in your own personal wallet, not on an exchange. However, I like to see what Bitcoin is doing, and this is a Bitcoin futures that we like to look at. Now, there's also GBTC. GBTC is not, it's in line kind of with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin's up, this is a stock that will move. I don't know if you can get it on Robinhood or Webull or any of those applications, but GBTC is a Bitcoin ETF, and I'm not sure exactly how much Bitcoin they have, but it's, again, one of those things. If you believe in Bitcoin, you want to buy Bitcoin, you're better off just going on Cash App or Coinbase and buying some Bitcoin to own it yourself versus going through an ETF. We'll take a look really fast at the S&P 100. Now, I also look at the advanced decline line in the S&P 100, and you can see Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Now, these stocks have, just look at the pie. They take up about 40, almost 50% of all these in the S&P 100. So we could have down days in the AD line when it's 5 up, 6 up, and 95 down. These 5 could be up, and this market could be green. That's how big these stocks have gotten. But to get a general gist on things, we look at the big 5, we look at that index, and we just see what it has done on the day. To wrap things up for you guys, I'm going to show you the ETFs versions that you can add to your watch list, just to keep things very simple. When it comes to the S&Ps, simply add the SPY. When it comes to the Nasdaq, simply add the QQQ. When it comes to the Russell, add the IWM. When it comes to bonds, add the TLT. When it comes to volatility, add the VXX. When it comes to financials, energy, and healthcare, just simply add these 3 ETFs, XLF, XLE, XLV. If you can't make the big 5, add Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook. Add them to your watch list. The 5 of these companies make up over $8 trillion. That's a lot of money, guys. So that's why we watch these guys really close on a day-to-day basis. If you want to look at the dollar, add the UUP. You get a general read on things. If you want to look at gold, add the GLD. Silver, add the SLV. Bitcoin, add the GBTC. So these ETFs are versions you can add to your watch list, and you can see what things do on a day-to-day basis. Are the financials down? Is the healthcare up? Where's money moving? Technology's up, healthcare's down, financials down. You can see money's moving into technology. So think of it as a story, and how is the story being told for that given day? But anyways, guys, that is the tip of the day. It's what I look at on a market breakdown video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's pretty basic and elementary, but if you're new to the channel and you're wondering why is he always talking about these stocks, this is the video for you to get an idea on why I talk about them. If you have any questions, guys, leave a comment down below and I'll answer your question. If you want to know anything about my watch list, I'll share my watch list in the description below. If you want to add it and you have Thinkorswim, if you're on TD Ameritrade, you can copy that in and you can have my exact watch list that I look at day in and day out. But on that note, guys, I appreciate it if you watched this far. Have a great day, guys. I will see you in the market breakdown. Take care. Peace.